This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com. My name is Todd DeWalt. It's my job to help you, the construction business owner, maximize profitability and eliminate chaos in your business. This episode is all about productivity hacks. You're going to learn some hacks that will help your crews be more productive. As I like to say it, help your crews make you more money. You're also going to learn about what I call the Lynyrd Skynyrd Principle. I'm also going to walk through a planning process that I learned probably 15 years too late. I wish I had learned this the first day that I was out working on construction projects. You're also going to get 3 tips that will help you personally create time. A lot of people talk about managing time, but what if you could actually create time in your calendar every week? That's what we're going to talk about. And then lastly, I'm going to answer a question that I get frequently from people who are planning to start a business or are in their first year of business. I get this question so often that I'm going to answer it on the podcast today. So stick around for that. One thing I want to tell you about before we get into those productivity hacks is the absolute best thing I can do for you if you own a construction business is to get you in a specific chair in one of my live events called The Advance. There is a seat in Fort Myers, Florida that you need to be occupying on April 2nd and 3rd. It is the absolute best thing I could do for you as a construction business owner. It's The Advance. It's a live event for construction business owners. It is the Bottom Line Growth Hacks and Secrets for Builders and Contractors Conference, okay? The Advance, it's all about bottom line growth, hacks, and secrets. It's all about helping you drive your bottom line. How can you maximize your bottom line profitability without hiring more people or finding more customers? That's what you're going to get. It's a live 2-day mastermind meeting with myself and a small group of other construction business owners just like you. It's an opportunity for you to have a, quote, off-site meeting for your company where you can get clarity on your business and you can get the inspiration to take your business to the next level. Bring your team with you. If you have a business partner, bring your business partner. If you have an operations manager or a project manager, bring them with you. You're going to be able to create relationships with other construction business owners from around the country. And frankly, that might be the best part of these events, would be the relationships that you build with people that attend. And you can go back home and have access to all of their knowledge and resources after the event is over. You're going to be able to get away from your business for a couple of days so you can get ahead with your business. Let's face it, when you're in the daily grind, down in the weeds, you don't have time or mental bandwidth to think strategically. So getting away for a couple of days is absolutely crucial. You need to be doing this probably on at least a quarterly basis. Get away from your business for a day or two for a quarterly offsite so you can get yourself extracted from the day-to-day and really look at it from a 30,000-foot level. So here's what a couple of people have said who attended previous Advance events. Barry said this, quote, "My tank is full after spending 2 days with Todd and a small group of like-minded individuals at the Advance. I was hesitant to register, but there was something stirring inside me telling me that I needed to attend. I had FOMO, fear of missing out. I'm so glad I made the investment. It was everything I expected and more." Matt said this, "The most impactful part of the Advance for us was learning how to sell on value and not focus on selling a price. Learning how to sell value to our clients has completely changed how our business functions and how we view prospective clients." I'll tell you what, instead of me reading these testimonials, I'm just going to let some of the people who have attended Advances tell you directly.
Hey, I'm Jesse with J Lane Construction. I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. So I drove 5 hours down to Fort Myers. It's loud in here, but it's because there's a lot of great guys behind me talking some good stuff about construction. So I really enjoyed it. Keep this short. I think Todd's amazing. The content was rich. Plus, being able to talk to all the different people, the different guys that have the same problems as me. We can connect, and we're not button heads because we're not competitors. We're across the countries. There's guys from Quebec, Canada. So anyway, really enjoyed it. Thumbs up, 5 stars, 10 stars.
Hi, my name's Justin McCullers. I work with Impact Enclosures. I'm one of the owners. We're out of Jacksonville, Florida. We specialize in outdoor living spaces. I would definitely recommend coming to the Advance conference here with Todd DeWalt. It was very informative. Not only informative, it allowed me to look at our business in a whole new light. Definitely was able to look at some of my personal growth limitations and improve a little bit with my mindset. One of the biggest takeaways I had was just having a limited mindset, not only on myself, but portraying it onto some of our employees, and I can't wait to implement that when I come back and allow more growth for my employees. And I think it's really going to help us take it to the next level. And thanks, Todd. I really appreciate everything you did.
When you're out there in the field or running your business, you kind of get to a point at the top, it's lonely on top. You feel like you're the only one sometimes that's going through the issues, that's going through the problems. And when you get together with a group of people that are smart, that are intelligent, that challenge you, man, it gives you hope. It gives you, it encourages you because you're not the only one. And so it creates this network of friends, and it creates a place to be able to bounce ideas, and it's super encouraging. So to find out that I'm not the only one out there that's dealing with cash flow problems. I'm not the only one dealing with people problems. I'm not the only one dealing with trying to know exactly why I'm doing this thing. To know that everything doesn't have to be perfect. You can still have success has been the biggest asset for me through all of it.
Here's the deadline. If you want to get in on the Advance, and if you want to grab your discounted hotel room at the Westin Cape Coral Resort before they go away, and if you want to grab your spot for the Advance before the price goes up, you need to lock in your spot by 11 p.m. on Thursday, March 5th. Go to constructionbusinessaccelerator.com/advance. Do it before March 5th at 11 p.m. Lock in your spot, and then make sure you get your hotel room locked in. As soon as you register, I'll send you a link to the hotel. You can lock in your discounted rate there at the Westin. It is a beautiful resort. It's right on the water in the Fort Myers Beach, Florida area, April 2nd and 3rd. All the details are at constructionbusinessaccelerator.com/advance. If you have questions about the Advance, send me a text, 859-667-2015. I want to answer your questions. I want to see you there because this is the best thing I can do for you. This will be a life-changing event for a lot of people, and I hope that you will be one of them. So go to constructionbusinessaccelerator.com/advance before March 5th at 11 p.m. Grab your spot, and I will hope to see you in Florida April 2nd and 3rd. Now, let's talk about productivity hacks. The first bucket of productivity hacks is related to your crew, the people actually putting work in place. And we'll get to you as the business owner or leader in just a few minutes. But here's what I've learned. After doing deep dive sessions, spending a couple of days with contractors on site, looking at their operation, after managing projects ranging from $3,000 bathroom remodels up to $70 million high rises, here's what I've learned. When somebody says, Todd, we have productivity issues, we have chaos on our projects, we have schedule overruns, there's one place that I start. I don't care what kind of work it is. I don't care how big the project is, how small the project is. I go to one particular part of the project. And in fact, if somebody came to me and said, Todd, I want to systematize my business, I'm going to go to one place. And actually, at this one transition, this one point in the project, if you systematize this, it's going to eliminate a lot of your other problems. So if you're thinking, oh man, systematizing my business is just overwhelming. I can't even imagine the idea of writing SOPs and having policies and procedures for every part of our project. Well, you don't really need that. You really just need to nail a few particular specific phases of the project. And if you want to boost the productivity of your crews and eliminate a lot of chaos, then you need to nail the handoff. That is the handoff from the office to the field, from estimating to operations, from sales to project management, whatever it is, there's a handoff. And if you will nail the handoff, then you will dramatically improve the productivity of your crews. You'll eliminate a lot of the chaos. You'll actually create time for yourself, which I'm going to give you some more specific suggestions for that. But nail the handoff. Here's how I think about the handoff. Think about the last time that you bought a piece of real estate or took out a loan on a piece of equipment or bought a truck. Specifically real estate. If you want to close a loan on a piece of real estate, there's usually a loan officer, or in some cases the mortgage officer will have somebody that just does closing. It's their job to manage the closing. Title company or somebody like that comes in with a checklist and a thick file folder, and if there are 27 boxes on the closing checklist that need to be checked before the loan can be closed, then it's either all or nothing. If you check 26 out of 27 of those boxes, you're not going to close the loan. It's all or nothing. And that's the way I think about handing off a project. All right. One of the most common problems I see with projects is guys in the field are constantly circling back to get information that should have been determined by estimating. Or I also see where deals were made between estimating and client, or between business development and client, and that information doesn't get handed off, doesn't get transferred to the people in the field actually doing the work, which results in missed expectations, frustrated clients who think they've gotten the bait and switch. So if you will nail the handoff, it's going to dramatically improve your team's productivity. It's probably going to have a positive impact on your client experience as well, because they're not going to feel like they've gotten the bait and switch. So here are a couple of steps to nail the handoff. First of all, just like that loan officer has a closing checklist, you need to have a handoff checklist. Come up with a checklist of what does a fully handed off project look like. And then have a handoff meeting. Actually meet with the people who will be doing the work and hand off the project to them. Okay? So if you'll do those two things, handoff checklist and have a handoff meeting, it will dramatically improve the productivity of your crew. And when you're thinking about the handoff, think about programming a computer. All right. If you are putting information into a spreadsheet, or if you've done any computer programming, you know that if you put in the slightest mistake, the wrong character, it just doesn't compute. It just doesn't work at all. And you need to think about feeding information to the people in the field like you're programming a computer. Jerry McCahey from Integra actually talked about this in his podcast episode, where we talked a lot about how we don't have a productivity issue, we have a process problem. And one of the things he talked about was this term that really needs to be eradicated, which is field verify. We'll figure it out in the field. Let's get out there and we'll get started. We'll figure it out in the field. And when you're programming a computer, you can't do that. So you have to load all of the information in up front. Otherwise, it's going to spit out garbage. So think about your handoff meeting and think about packaging up your projects to the people in the field, just like you're going to program a computer. Give them 100% of the information. Take the option of figuring it out in the field, or take the option of get started and then we'll let you know. We'll figure that out later on. Take that off the table, because that's where a lot of the productivity problems, a lot of the chaos, and a lot of missed expectations come from. Next is the the Lynyrd Skynyrd Principle. Yeah, maybe you didn't realize it, but Lynyrd Skynyrd actually has one particular song that is pretty informative when it comes to planning. Let me play a little clip of that song for you. So that's the Lynyrd Skynyrd song, Gimme 3 Steps. And what does that have to do with productivity? Well, here's what I've found, is humans have a tendency to be lazy. And you and I and just about everybody else you work with just wants to focus on the next step. What do we have to do next? What's the next step? So what that looks like would be, all right, we're going to just show up at the shop and we'll find out what we're going to do, and then we'll head out to the job site, and then when we get to the job site, we'll figure out what we need, and then we'll send somebody to the supply house to get started, and then we'll get started, and then tomorrow we'll send them back to the supply house to get what we need. Or what it looks like with your customers is they say, we just need to get an estimate. We just need to throw together enough half-assery of a design or a scope of work to get an estimate. And then we need to get a contract signed. Or if you're dealing with a broker, they just want to get a lease signed based on the minimum amount of effort and information, just pushing to get to the next step. So what you need to think about is the Lynyrd Skynyrd song, Give Me 3 Steps. Give me 3 steps. Think about if somebody says, all right, well, we just need to get to we're going to show up to the shop, and then we're going to go out to the job site, and step number 1 is we're going to go to the job site and figure out what we need. Well, you as the leader should ask the question, start thinking, give me 3 steps, and ask the question, then what? Well, then we're going to figure this out, and then ask again, then what? So train your people to think about the Lynyrd Skynyrd song, 3 steps. And you can do this by asking the question, then what? Then what? Then what? Because here's the thing. Planning is simply making decisions. And a lot of these decisions can be made in the future. And the further in advance you make decisions, or the further in advance you plan, the less expensive those decisions become. The later you wait to plan, or the later you wait to make decisions, the more expensive they are. So think about this. When the most expensive time to make a decision is when the crew is at the job site and everybody's standing around. You have equipment, you have labor, you have overhead running, and people are deciding, okay, what do you think we should do here? That is the most expensive time to make a decision. The most profitable time to make a decision is 2 or 3 weeks or a month before, when you're sitting at your desk, or during a rain day, or some time other than when there's a crew and equipment and the meter running. That's the most profitable time for you to make those decisions. So remember the Lynyrd Skynyrd principle. Give me 3 steps. If somebody says, well, we're going to do this, ask the question, then what? Then what? Then what? And in some cases, you'll find out that the first step or the second step doesn't make any sense. And by helping them think through 3 steps or 4 steps or 5 steps down the road, they can actually avoid wasting time. So that's the Lynyrd Skynyrd principle. Next, I want to talk about a planning process that I wish I had learned 15 years earlier. Here was the situation. I walked into a job site trailer in Louisville, Kentucky, and there were 4 or 5 pretty annoyed-looking guys sitting in there. Concrete guy, a dirt guy, a paving contractor, and the body language was all negative. Arms folded, frustrated, not making eye contact. Nobody wanted to be there. A little bit pissed off, and that's the situation that I walked into. And the reason for that meeting was I was managing a project. I was working for a real estate developer. as the owner's rep. This was about a $20 million distribution center, and it had one section of parking lot that had some bad soil. And long story short, the general contractor had kind of messed up over the course of when we had some good weather. They found some unsuitable material. They undercut, filled it up with stone, didn't get it sealed off with dense grade, didn't get it paved. It rained, ruined the subgrade again, and they just kept digging deeper, trying to get down to good soil. And the situation we were in was, it was about late October, early November. We had about 6 weeks before the asphalt plants shut down. We had a tenant that was going to move into the building in January, February timeframe, and if we didn't get that parking lot paved, then we were looking at six-figure problems, maybe even seven-figure damages. Big, big deal. Now, the general contractor had been prescribing, telling these guys what to do. You need to go out here and do this, and you need to go out here and do this, and you need to go out there and do that, and it wasn't working. They had screwed around for 6 to 8 weeks, missed all sorts of opportunities, and it was at a critical phase where if we had 6 weeks to do about 6 weeks worth of work, quite frankly. We had to get some earthwork done, some undercutting done, we had to get some concrete, curbs, sidewalks, then it had to get paved, and all of that had to happen in a really bad time of the year, all right? So I walked into this situation, and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to tell these guys what to do. I was not in a position of strength, and I was not in a position to mandate what these guys were going to do. And furthermore, if we didn't succeed, then the damages were going to be really big. It was going to be a gigantic mess. So I walked into that job site trailer looking at a lot of pissed off guys. And here's what I did. I laid out the situation. I didn't make any threats. And I said, this is what we need to do. This is what winning looks like, okay? I understand things have not gone well. I'm not here to point fingers, but we have to come up with a plan to get this done. And we can't leave until we get this done. I need your help. So I spent the next few hours working and negotiating with these guys and asking one of my favorite questions when it comes to planning that I'll tell you about in just a minute. And ultimately, we walked out of there with a plan that really required almost clockwork-like precision over the next 4 to 6 weeks, and it worked. It worked better than any plan I could have come up with. And the reason that it worked was it wasn't necessarily because of the plan, but it was because of how the plan was put together, okay? And it was the two keys were how the plan was put together, and then number two, who was involved in the development of the plan. You see, what I learned from that was that my previous way of planning was fundamentally flawed. The way I used to plan was I would go to my desk, open up my laptop, or get out my notepad and sticky notes, and I would do Gantt charts and look-ahead schedules and planning, and I would come up with the plan, and then I would hand it to the guys in the field and tell them, here is your glorious plan, and the sunlight would glimmer off this amazing plan that I put together, and there would be oohs and ahs, of course, in the background, at least in my head. And I thought it was all about the plan. And who better to put the plan together than me? Because I saw all of the different aspects, the multifaceted viewpoints and the perspectives of the project. And I spent 15 years wondering, why can't these guys carry out my plan? So here's what I learned, all right? Here's what I learned from that group of frustrated guys. And by the way, when we left that meeting, body language was positive. Guys had a plan. Guys felt good about it. And I'll tell you why. The attitudes were good, and ultimately why the plan actually worked. So Your job in developing the plan. Now, hopefully you're not in a crisis situation, but let's just look at for the next 30 days, or maybe you have to plan for one particular project. Maybe you're going to plan your activities for the next 2 weeks. Maybe it's a 2-week look-ahead schedule. Whatever it is, your job is to, number one, establish what winning looks like. All right? Establish what winning looks like. That is your job. And what does winning look like? Obviously means working safely, but what I'm talking about is what is a tangible, concrete target. Maybe there are 1 or 2 or 3 things that really need to be accomplished to win. One of the things that needs to happen if you're a contractor is you need to get the work done profitably, right? So one of the things I talk about is how to schedule for profit. What if you could put together a schedule in such a way that you could be confident that if we hit these schedule dates, we will be profitable? Now, a lot of people kind of go out and they do the best they can, and then they get to the end of the week, the end of the month, the end of the project, and look at the results and think, oh man, we didn't make any money, or we lost money. And that's because you're operating from left to right, as I call it, just starting and taking it one step at a time. Kind of goes back to that thinking trap of let's just think about the next step that I talked about earlier. But if you want to virtually guarantee profitability, you need to schedule for profit. You need to establish a schedule and establish some milestone dates that will virtually guarantee you'll be profitable. In other words, if you hit this milestone by this date, then you'll be profitable. Then all you have to do is make sure that happens. I'm not going to go into the whole how to schedule for profit process. I actually have a video on my Facebook page. You can find it at facebook.com/construction leading edge, where I walk through that process, and I think I even offer a template. There's a spreadsheet you can use to schedule for profit. But go check that out so you can get those tools and watch that video. But your job is to establish what winning looks like and then turn those into concrete, tangible milestone dates. We need to have this done by this date. We need to have this milestone done by this date. And then number 2 is to get the right people in the room, the people who will actually be carrying out the plan. Could be trade partners, could be employees, could be people in your office. It might include the client. Maybe there's somebody on the client side who needs to be part of this process as well. And then lay out what winning looks like. These are the milestones that need to be hit. And then here's my favorite question to ask, okay? What would it take to make this happen? What would it take to hit this milestone? And people start to say, well, if I can get started on this, or if this happens and that happens, then we can achieve that milestone. But your job, pretty simply, is to identify what winning looks like, clearly define what that looks like. Tangible, concrete, easy to understand milestones, and then ask the question. Get the right people in the room. That's step number 1 in a good planning process, is get the right people in the room. And then ask the right questions. What would it take? What would it take? What would it take? And keep asking the questions, and you'll find that people will start to negotiate and say, well, if you can do this, then I can do this. They negotiate amongst themselves. This is actually the lean construction pull planning process in a nutshell. That's what it is. And the key is really a psychological principle that people are much more likely to carry out a plan that they are part of developing than a plan that is just shoved down their throat. Another way I like to say it is the half-ass, half-baked plan that they are part of developing is much better than the perfect plan that you put together in a vacuum. So let me say that again. The half-assed, half-baked plan that they'll actually follow, that they were part of developing, is superior than the perfect plan that you put together in a vacuum. So remember, here's a key. That question, what would it take, is an amazing question to ask, but there's also one question that you need to stop asking. I've seen this over the past 20 years, and people ask a question that they really don't want the answer to. They continually ask this same question that they really don't want the answer to, and actually moves people in the wrong direction. And that question is, well, why can't you? Or why can't we? Why can't you get it done faster? Why can't you do this first? Why can't you? Think about that. Do you really want to know the answer to that question? Do you really want people to justify their position that they can't do something? No. What you really want to know is, what would it take? So replace why can't you with what would it take? All right, so there's a couple of productivity hacks that will help your crews be more productive. Now let's talk about you. Let's talk about how you can actually create time. A couple of quick hitters here. I'm going to give you 3 things that you can use that I've shared with my coaching clients that I have personally used to create time. Number 1 is management by absence. Number 1 is management by absence. What does that mean? That means stop answering the phone when your people call you with every little question. Stop operating as if you are a call center. You're not a tech support hotline, okay? Sometimes what you need to do is be a little less accessible. You need to be a little bit less accessible to your people. Force them to make decisions. So management by absence. Train your people how to think. Don't just tell them what to do, but stretch them a little bit. And what that looks like, maybe you don't answer a text immediately. Maybe you wait 30 minutes or so and check back in with them. I'm going to talk about another strategy you can use that goes nicely with management by absence in just a moment. But stop thinking of yourself as a call center. Stop thinking of yourself as the only person that should be solving problems. Here's another very common misconception in construction, maybe in all of business. But there's this misconception that he or she who is higher on the organizational chart is better equipped to make decisions. Let me say that again. There's a misconception that the person who is higher on the organizational chart, the manager, the supervisor, whoever has a higher pay grade, is better equipped to make decisions. And that's wrong. Actually, the person closest to the problem is better equipped to make a decision. The person who is closest to the problem is better equipped to make a decision. Our military figured that out in the War on Terror. It was one of the key fundamental shifts that General Stanley McChrystal talked about in his book Team of Teams, is empowered execution, which is pushing power and decision-making authority and pushing information out to the people closest to the problem. Power to the Edge is a book that talks about that. But push decision-making, push authority, push information out to the people closest to the problem. And one of the ways you can do that is by using management by absence. Don't answer every phone call. All right, now I'll talk about a strategy you can use in just a moment. Let's just talk about that. It's one of the best ways to create time is to use what I call batching. Batching, specifically, batching communication. So what that looks like with your teammates or your direct reports, the people that you're supporting, would be to say, all right, we're going to talk twice a day. We're going to talk at 7:30 in the morning and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you have a question that you can't answer, then hold it until one of our standing phone calls We're going to talk for 15 minutes twice a day. And if you can't figure it out, then you hold on to it until that phone call, then we'll talk about it. If it's an emergency, you let me know. But by batching communication with your people, you'll force people to answer their own questions instead of just pulling the ripcord and saying, well, I'm just going to call Todd and ask him. He'll tell me what to do because he's always available. But if you aren't available, they'll start to figure those things out on their own. You can also use batching communication with your clients. If you find yourself answering texts and phone calls and emails all day long from clients or trade partners, you can batch communication with them as well. I put together a video on batching communication in a little more detail. It's on my Facebook page. You can go check that out as well. And the third strategy you can use to create time is a deep work session. All right. I've used these. I use these consistently. Several of my clients have said this has been a real game changer for them. But set aside 90-minute, well, actually start with a 30-minute deep work session where you put your phone on airplane mode. You turn off email notifications. You may want to go somewhere else. You may want to go to a coffee shop, go to a public library, go somewhere away from the office if you need to, but block out 30-minute deep work sessions where you have a specific agenda, something specific that you want to get done, and don't work on anything else. No distractions, no texts, no phone calls, no emails. Tell your people in advance, hey, I'm going to be off the grid for the next 30 minutes or 60 minutes. And you'll be amazed how much you can actually get done in a good deep work session. Now, let's talk about that question that people ask me most frequently about starting a business, or maybe they're in their first year of business. And the question typically goes like something like, hey, Todd, I've been doing fill in the blank type of work for the last fill in the blank number of years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 25 years. I'm going to make the jump. I'm going to go out on my own. How can I go find clients? What's a good lead generation source for me to go find fill in the blank clients? So what this looks like specifically would be somebody who has spent the last 20 years, say, doing HVAC installation. And that's what they've done, and that's what they know, so they want to go start a business. Or they've been a crane operator for the last 20 years, so they plan on starting a crane rental business, or whatever the case may be. And here's what I tell them. It's not really what they're asking for, but it's what they need to know. Sometimes your job is to help people, tell people what they need to know, even if it's not what they're asking, all right? So there are two business development approaches. There's approach number one, which is the guy with a hammer in search of a nail, all right? There's an old saying that to a man with a hammer, every problem is a nail. Think about that. To a man with a hammer, every problem is a nail. And the business development strategy that a lot of people have is, hey, I've got this hammer. I've been running cranes. I've been installing air handling equipment. I've been doing plumbing. I've been managing some specific type of project for the last 20 years. And I have a hammer, and I want to go find more nails that I can drive. That's strategy number one. And that's what a lot of people ask me. How can I find more nails to drive with this specific hammer that I'm really good at swinging? That's one strategy, and there's nothing wrong with that. But here's another strategy. What if you could be the person with access to a lot of different tools and responding to problems that need to be solved? Instead of being the guy with a hammer, what if you're the guy that can learn how to use just about any tool to solve a specific problem? That's actually a better business development strategy. Let's not go look for nails that need to be driven. Let's go find problems that need to be solved. Maybe it involves a 20-ounce framing hammer. Maybe it's an impact wrench. maybe it's a nail gun, maybe it's a pipe wrench, maybe it's a weed eater, but the strategies and tactics are really all tools to solve problems. So your job as an entrepreneur, if you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to open the field, then think of yourself as someone who moves resources from a place of low value to a place of high value. That's what an entrepreneur does at the most basic level. They move a resource from a place of low value to a place of high value. They turn time and tools and information and expertise into valuable solutions. Move it from a place of low value to a place of high value. So here's my advice. If you're thinking, how can I find more fill-in-the-blank customers? Here's my advice to you. Don't start looking for nails. Think about this first. Think about let's go find some problems that need to be solved. Here's what my advice for you would be. Let's find, number one, a problem that needs to be solved. Number two would be find a problem that people are willing to pay you to solve. And number three, find a problem that you can solve that people are willing to pay for, and you can do it profitably. So looking for problems that people are willing to pay for that you can do profitably. There are plenty of problems out there that people aren't willing to pay for. There are plenty of problems out there that you can't do profitably for whatever reason. But your sweet spot would be the overlap of those three. Imagine three circles. Circle number one, there's a problem that people have. Circle number two is people are willing to pay for it. Circle number three is can you do it profitably? And in that overlap of those three circles, that's a potential business. So how do you do that? Well, start with the people that you like to work with. Think about your ideal client. Maybe you have some history with facility managers, or you have history with general contractors. Think about who would you like to work with. Is it commercial? Is it residential? Do you want to work with homeowners? Do you hate the idea of working with residential homeowners and you only want to work with businesses? Figure out who you want to work with, contact some of those people, and instead of asking, hey, do you have a nail I can drive for you? Ask, what problems are you dealing with? What's costing you money? What's slowing you down? What problems are you dealing with? Open up that question. Instead of asking, hey, do you have any projects I can bid on for you? Ask, what problems are you having? What's frustrating you right now? And if you can get to a business owner or somebody who has a vested interest in solving a problem, then you have a potential business opportunity. And if you talk to 10 people and 2 of them have a problem that they're willing to pay for that's costing them money, and you could potentially solve it, then you might have yourself a business idea. So a few misconceptions that I see. Number one is I have to find a specific nail that I've been driving for the last 20 years. The other one is a lot of people think they have to be a home builder. They have to be a general contractor to be successful. And the reality is that may not be the case. There may be huge opportunities. Actually, in most busy marketplaces right now, one of your best opportunities is to go in and be a trade partner. Be a drywall subcontractor. Being a subcontractor or a trade partner is a great way to start a business because there are lots of home builders out there, lots of general contractors who need good, professional, qualified trade partners. You can also be a consultant. You can do training. You can be a safety consultant, right? You can learn these things. Stop thinking of yourself as somebody with a narrow skill set. Think of yourself as somebody who can find problems, come up with innovative solutions to those problems, and then learn how to solve them, all right? Hopefully that makes sense, but that is my advice for you if you're thinking about starting a business and you're not sure what to do, or you're thinking, I'm in the first year of my business, how can I get more leads? If you're struggling to find leads, struggling with filling your backlog, you may want to open things up a little bit and look for problems rather than looking for specific projects. Okay, that wraps this one up. Hopefully the Lynyrd Skynyrd Principle makes sense. I would advise you to immediately put that planning process to work where you establish what winning looks like, get the right people in the room, and ask the question, what would it take? I would also really encourage you to start leveraging management by absence, putting some deep work sessions into place. I think you'll be surprised how much you can actually get done during a 30-minute or a 60-minute, definitely a 90-minute deep work session. You may be able to get more work done in 90 minutes of uninterrupted deep work than you can get done in an entire day of bouncing back and forth between things. Speaking of which, I did an episode about the builder versus manager schedule. I'm not sure which episode it is, but go back, search back through the podcast episodes, find the builder versus manager schedule. It's pretty enlightening, and also lends credence to the idea of deep work sessions. Don't forget, grab your spot for the advance if you want to get away from your business for a couple of days, if you want to have a strategic off-site meeting for your team, pull back and take the 30,000-foot strategic view of your business. If you want to develop relationships with other construction business owners, then I can't imagine, there's nothing else I can do for you that's better than the advance. The advance is April 2nd and 3rd. It is all about helping you drive bottom line profitability. So I hope to see you in Fort Myers at the Advance, the Bottom Line Growth Hacks and Secrets Conference for Builders and Contractors. All the details are at constructionbusinessaccelerator.com/advance. Price goes up. Hotel rooms go away March 5th at 11 p.m. Grab your spot if you're thinking about it. If you have questions, send me an email, todd@constructionleadingedge.com, or you can send me a text, 859-667-2015. And as I mentioned, I've got a couple of videos on my Facebook page that I referenced about batching communication, also about how to schedule for profit. You can go to facebook.com/constructionleadingedge and check those out. Also, if you want to see something interesting, there's a video on my page about, it starts off with something like, you may never look at concrete guys the same again. If you want to see some interesting sociology or some interesting psychology, go read the comments of that video. It's been viewed about 130,000 times, and there's some pretty interesting comments. I was called names in those comments that I actually had to look up. I wasn't even sure what it meant. So, interesting stuff. So go check that out. But thank you so much for listening. My name is Todd DeWalt. If you need help with anything, text me 859-667-2015. If you want to schedule a call with me and talk about eliminating profit bleeds in your business, solving the chaos in your business, systematizing your business, then go to constructionleadingedge.com. There's a red button that says schedule a call, and I would love to talk to you if you own a construction business. Thanks for listening. I will see you next time.